Welcome all. So we keep going on Ordinals. So I'll quickly introduce myself. Then I'll let you guys introduce yourself. And then I'll start with a opener.
The whip?
So I'm FrankNFT. I think I own 5 or 6 Ordinals, which 2 of them are tiny Vikings. And my punks, of course. And something that Adam gave me that was an experiment. And that's about it. Yeah, most here know I'm head of speaker selection here, so it was a lot of fun doing that. But I'm more of an eat maxi. Sorry for that, guys. Okay, so let's see who we have here. Oscar.
Oscar, my name is Carlos.
Whoops.
so my name is Oscar. No, my name's Carlos. Yeah, I'm a founder of Full Moon, inscription that I inscribed 200K inscription early, and I just never deployed it, and that's part of Full Moon. And then now I'm running with Lars. I never leave Lars's site. I've seen Lars for 40 days or more plus. We've slept in a bed together probably. Yeah, no TMI. No, but yeah, so this is me. You guys see me around, and yeah, stay tiny, everybody.
Yeah, so my name is Lars. This is my second time in Tallinn, second time at BananaConf. Yeah, and I build Tiny Vikings together with Elgin, Carlos. We have a team of about 10 people. Most of us engineers trying to advance what we can do on Bitcoin. And I was also for the longest a ETH maxi in a sense. Started playing with Bitcoin in 2009. Bought drugs online with it. That was fun. That was a good utility. And then ETH came along, the white paper. I sort of saw the light of a world computer, which I think has become has had some challenges, and I think the move to proof of stake was maybe not the best idea, but I guess we'll debate some of that today. Why we actually need proof of work.
Yep. And Elgin Kim, been with many iterations of Lars-Erik from the past. Known each other, and we grew together and built this, come to this product where we are at together. And it's not just a one-hit wonder in a sense that it just came out of nowhere. We, by heart, we are true builders, and we've been working on this for a long time. And what you're seeing now is just the beginning of this next iteration of our journey. But really excited to be here. Tallinn is a beautiful city despite the weather. For me, I come from Los Angeles, so I welcome the snow. It's like winter wonderland, and I love it. And so great to be here. And Frank, take it away.
Okay. So let's start with correcting an error from the previous panel. Ordinals. They're not NFTs, right?
They're not NFTs. No.
No, they're fungible, right?
They're Bitcoin.
They're Bitcoin, indeed.
But they are not. How? What do you mean they're fungible?
They're fungible. NFT stands for non-fungible token. A SAT is fungible. Any SAT is any SAT. Are you saying that they're becoming non-fungible because you put some art on it?
You inscribe arbitrary data on the specific set.
Does that then make them non-fungible?
Yeah, isn't that the definition of them? They are. You can of course, in the end, it's still a set.
But I can inscribe the same data on 10,000 sets.
So this is what it is. An ordinal has a chance to be an NFT. Is it possible? There's a. Oh yeah.
No,
mic is
hold
on.
it like that. Yeah.
No, so an ordinal could be an NFT. So, but an NFT can never be an ordinal, and that's what the difference is. So you are inscribing on a Satoshi, then you could make that also an NFT by doing complicated bridging or, yeah.
I just want to chime in on this, and I think what is an NFT? And it stands for non-fungible token, but in my view, the core utility of NFTs is digital private property. We are inscribing data now, and we will see the most, I think, increase in new value production coming the next decades will be in cyberspace. And I think that's where we also need this core concept of digital private property. And we have expressed it so far in a way that most people think about NFTs as pictures of cats living on a blockchain, or maybe just the ownership of them being, the keys, like which, a lot of Ethereum collections are Solana collections where you actually, you store the ownership ledger on chain and then you have off-chain data. But I think, in the core concept, like I think the valuable way, or at least an interesting way of thinking about NFTs is like it is digital private property. And look at what the world has turned into when we have physical private property.
So I'll simplify.
Well, but I'm going to expound on what Frank was saying because I think it makes sense. So like, let's go through the logic. Bitcoin, fungible. SAT is part of Bitcoin. So, we're inscribing on a SAT. So essentially, it's a SAT. So if SAT is fungible because it's Bitcoin, how can it be non-fungible?
So I'll explain it. So
Yeah.
like, let's take ENS domains. ENS domains are like NFT domains that you reference your address on there, right? You have to rent that domain every year. You have to like pay for that. So let's say you make a domain on Bitcoin. You own that domain forever because you're paying storage one time by paying the mempool. And what I'm saying, an ordinal could be an NFT. So you could take that domain and make another sublayer and send it to Ethereum and rent out more storage if you need it. But having your top layer ordinal being the back end to what you store later down the line. You cannot do that with a NFT. You're storing it initially and renting for it, and you're not owning that storage data initially.
No, I'm going to counter that one because ENS, that was a clear design decision to make them rentable. Standard NFTs are not rentable. No, but,
but
ENS
if you don't
is
pay,
really a corner case there. It's their business model.
But if you don't pay for your storage data on NFTs, you're going to have 404 errors all over your marketplaces. So you're definitely paying for rent.
I was actually expecting that. If we're going in that direction, because in 2021, everybody was using Pinata because you could, you got I think 5 giga and you had enough files to do a 10K collection. And recently they changed that and they made that payable and they did put the boundaries way below a 10K collection. So that's something. This will become a mess. I didn't see many yet, but this will become a mess. I fully agree on that one. But still, I like controversial, so I'm going to throw in another one for you. When I think Bitcoin, I think about the most important sentence in crypto. You know what that is?
Crypto's real utility is to actually replace the current centralized debt-backed trust-based system with a decentralized, trustless,
You
crypto-based
took
system.
the words right out of his mouth.
No. You? What's the most important sentence in crypto?
The most important sense in...
It's a sentence, so it's not GM.
Okay.
It's a sentence.
I believe it's transparency, security, and ownership.
Oscar?
Just own your keys and be secure. That's my.
You're all right. We're all looking at way too far. Yeah. The most important sentence in crypto is when Lambo. And when I see an ordinal, what do I see? I see a Lambo. You know, it's Bitcoin, and it has a bumper sticker on it.
But what if I'm a Ferrari guy?
Well, we can put a bumper sticker also on the Ferrari, no worries. But I did this in Lisbon. Fabian is here. And I said, yeah, you guys are doing ordinals. And basically, what are you doing? You are taking the very smallest part of a Bitcoin, and you're engraving art on it, and then you're saying it's more valuable. And wait, the story is not over. And I said, the audience was really surprised, I made the very first physical ordinal. So what did I do? I took a piece of 1 cent, and I removed the king of the back. I engraved my punk instead. And I said, voila, it's a physical ordinal. And I said, okay, the first guy that gets me a beer will actually get this very first in the world physical ordinal. And the guy that got it is sitting over there, Fabian. And I proved myself wrong, because Fabian, he paid €6 for that beer, because beer was pretty expensive in Lisbon, and I gave him a completely worthless 1 cent piece. So he upgraded that to €6. But it's a Lambo with a bumper sticker. Okay, to you guys.
I guess that's like proof of Lambo actually arriving at some point, or?
No, I'm still looking at what is the added value of ordinals on Bitcoin. Fees are high, transaction fees are high, transactions are super slow, it takes very long to mine a block. It went better thanks to ordinals actually, because the ordinals hype is actually driving the whole thing, but it also drives the fees up. And so I'm looking for that, what is that really added value, you know?
So,
putting a bumper sticker on a Lambo, it doesn't add value. So what is the added value of an ordinal on a Bitcoin set? What is that?
I think, like when I sort of discovered Ordinals about a year ago as well, like I had the same sort of, like my initial understanding of it was that we have a limited set of sats to refer. And if you think about this, there's like 100 quadrillion sats. So you basically have 100 quadrillion memory addresses to reference. But then you start to look deeper into it, or to begin with, then it's okay, if we have limited storage on Bitcoin, what's actually valuable enough to put on that network, to give that network more work to actually inscribe? And I was thinking like, okay, what is actually valuable enough? And that should, in my head, there would be information that if changed would dramatically alter the world and affecting a lot of people in a negative way. How long did it last until Wikipedia was completely worthless? Like that didn't take long. Like if you go in there now and like you look at like the leader of WHO, he's like one of the few people in the world that actually have committed medical genocide. All those things are being scrubbed from the internet. But then, some guys inscribed WikiLeaks on ordinals. And I think that, okay, that actually makes sense. That's valuable enough. And I think like what makes it valuable, just to cite like, the biggest Bitcoin maxi out there, Michael Saylor, like we've had like 840,000 something blocks of truth. And, it's a kind of an interesting solution to digital entropy. Like this data will be there forever. And of course, inscribing it on Bitcoin doesn't make it true. It at least makes a ledger that everyone can transparently go in and actually look at what information was there now, what was there before, and it's accessible to anyone.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's like Bitcoin is going to cause chaos, and like all the chaos that's in the world will be recorded on Bitcoin and be referenced for the like end of time. That's the point of ordinals, is to reference data that we cannot like remove or be censored, because that's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin started to as to start chaos, right? Like Lars was buying drugs with Bitcoin, right? So like imagine you're storing historic events on Bitcoin that happened. Like, right, let's say like we were in Dubai, you store this flood on Bitcoin, and we'll remember that flood was the biggest in 75 years, and that will never be able to be erased. That data is just stored there.
And for me, in the perspective of ordinals, like if you look at Bitcoin as a stored value, now we have a chance to make a digital toy, right? Transform that stored value into a digital toy, right? And so now we can do things that could not have been done before. And so in a sense, it's true transformation, right? Of what, if we look at Bitcoin as old tech and ordinal as new tech, right? It's transformative and we can do new things to it. And so that's, for me, is what's exciting.
That's the take I like. That's really a take I like. Because yeah, you're all engineers, so and me too. So 4 engineers on stage. So it's an interesting take.
I think just to chime in on like, are they fungible? They are definitely fungible. Like we have seen tiny Vikings being sacrificed to the miners. People not, doing coin control correctly, and like suddenly that, UTXO or like those sats where a tiny Viking lives and it's inscribed on is suddenly spent as transaction fee, or someone sends it as Bitcoin to a Bitcoin receive wallet, and then they can be saved, of course.
That is definitely another problem that I see with ordinals, but it's basically, it's a general crypto problem. The whole space is very sensitive. It's very techy, and yeah, I wouldn't breach that between NFTs and ordinals. We're just in a very techy space, and yeah. The previous panel, we also had the problem. Yeah, the problem of the 24 words. That is what's holding us back from mass adoption, and yeah, we're not there yet.
And so like I'll go back to just like why ordinals are actually important for Bitcoin. Ordinals is gonna give Bitcoin life again, right? So like the halvening just happened. We just lost. The miners are making like 3.125 now, and Bitcoin rewards on every block. So ordinals are gonna increase the transaction fees for the miners. Especially runes. It's just gonna keep feeding and validating and keep decentralizing the network. So that's why ordinals are very important, because it goes to the Bitcoin culture of feeding the miners, decentralize the network, and validating each transactions. And that's what Bitcoin needs to keep it alive. So that's why ordinals are very important to store data on.
Yeah, you touched the magic word there, runes. What the hell are runes? Are those shitcoins on Bitcoin?
I guess, yeah, like, it's, if anyone's played with, like, BRC20s, tokens on Bitcoin, like, BRC20s are basically inscriptions, and someone decided that, okay, if we make this string a text, that we have these parameters, we can agree on it being a token standard. It doesn't make it, fungible tokens. It's really clunky. If you've ever tried, there's, like, multiple transactions needed. You need to sell them in specific lots. Back to, like, what are runes? Runes are a protocol built by the same guy who developed the Ordinals protocol to basically enable a fungible token standard on Bitcoin to allow people to make, alternative layers of tokens and protocols on top of it. Think ERC20 on ETH or SPL on Solana. So yeah, there's tons of shitcoins. That's why the mempool now is like, transaction fees are like 10x of what they usually are. People paid like, millions of dollars to deploy some of the first runes.
Yeah, but it defeats the purpose, no? I do shitcoin trading. I plead guilty. But yeah, we're talking about tiny transactions, pun intended. And if I then have to pay massive fees on that, I'm not making a profit anymore. It hurts.
I guess you just gotta be a bit more patient, Lambo, not tomorrow, but Lambo maybe, 3 months from now. But I think this is good experimentation though. Like, we deployed our rune token at the halving block, but now there's, we were rune number 97. Now there's like, thousands and thousands of runes out there. And, that's, if you go to mempool.space, you can start looking into it. You can see all these tiny, tiny transactions, and people are paying, hundreds of dollars to buy like $6 worth of like shit coins on Bitcoin. Some of them will, of course, skyrocket. And this is, I think runes will also, runes and ordinals together, like we have arbitrary data we can store on chain. We also now have a new way to denominate the value of what these new things we put on chain can be, transacted with. So I think we'll see a lot of the things we've seen with like DeFi, NFTs, all these things that have been built on ETH and Solana and other chains before. A lot of that will come to Bitcoin now, and it will come to, the main chain with like more than $1 trillion in liquidity.
I'm a Bitcoin OG. I was there in the old days, and in the old days we invented something that was called Lightning. Well, why didn't we put ordinals maybe, and definitely runes, on something like the Lightning Shine?
It's too heavy for Lightning.
Yeah?
It's too heavy.
I don't know. And so
It's too heavy. So that's like, you could do runes on Lightning, but you could also do like ordinals on Lightning, but like ordinals as itself, where it's deployed on the output, it's too heavy for Lightning from a technical standpoint. Runes is just an easier set because they're lighter. So that's why we see a lot of congestions, and you'll be able to transact through Lightning with runes in a more efficient way. But it's very costly to do ordinals transactions through Lightning because it's such a heavy set.
So it's the free text field that basically explodes it.
Yeah, the witness data on the output side on an ordinal. That's where ordinal inscriptions are stored, and you have like 80 bytes or something, or 60 bytes available to store data. And that's why you saw BRC20 congestion the network, because they're to deploy them, they like take 80 bytes, 60 bytes, and now you put runes on the output return side of the transaction, and they're like 2 to 4 bytes. And so that means like you're gonna get like 30, 40x of the transaction going into mempool. And that's why you see a massive congestion at a cheaper rate too. So even if it's higher fees, it's cheaper to deploy, higher transactions than BRC20s.
Well, we're all way deep in these fees things. I see that our counter is counting down. Do you guys see a solution on Bitcoin for the fee problem?
Yeah, I think this is, we talked to some of the big miners down in Dubai and like asked them like, okay, what do you think about the halving now? Like, they usually, even though Bitcoin halves in rewards, they still only usually every halving see like only like a 30% drop in actual income. One, because, miners continue to evolve, every year, every other year, there's a new ASIC coming out. So efficiency gets better, but also, price tends to pump. So dollar value, of course, they, usually they're better off not that long after.
Yeah. So like we will like right now we're just in a peak euphoria moment, and you'll see like the mempool come back to like 30, 25 sats for B bytes. So like this is just how Bitcoin operates. Sometimes you see high spikes in the mempool, and so sometimes you shouldn't be playing around high fees if you really can't afford it to transact. But like in like the long term of Bitcoin, we'll see like the mempool being neutral around like 20, 40 sats per B bytes at all time. Throughout like the whole year span, and you'll have like moments through like the year, 1 or 2 months that you'll see high spikes, and like that's when you see like price of ordinals and runes really go up, because like euphoria, people like FOMO, because like the mempool is super high and they think that's gonna maintain it at all times. But like overall average 20 to 40 sats per bytes on the mempool at all times.
I just want to like just add to this, like runes is not just something that degens are like aping into, selling their kids, selling their wives to get into some of these early ones, but like the big exchanges are coming. Like OKX is like really on this. Like OKX will be one of the first like centralized exchanges to list this. Gate.io, Binance, like they're all coming. So I think it's definitely something that to be reckoned with, something to experiment with, and I think if nothing else, like thousands and thousands of people have started running a Bitcoin node now. They're learning about this. They're actually, diving into it. Yeah, people are spending, their ordinals as mining fees, but this will be a lot easier, and that's, now it's kind of complicated. You need like, still in most crypto, you need like this wallet, you need the mnemonic phrases, but like, just give it like some time, like just like a few weeks now, a month, like you'll start seeing these things get listed on the major exchanges.
And to add to that, I think mining will be more efficient. There may be some consolidation, right? But I think mining will be more efficient. I think, to Lars's point, probably more nodes. I bet the common man will know how to run a node, right? It'll be probably to a point where it's not going to happen overnight, but I think eventually, you get to the person who's a hobbyist who can probably just run a node, right? Because it'll probably make it easier.
I see we have almost nothing left, so will you guys give some kind of a closing note to the audience, say, buy ordinals or whatever?
Not financial advice, but like, if you really want to stay tiny, 42 tinies, that's a good number. Why 42? Because 42 is the meaning of everything, and tinies are 42 by 42. So.
Yeah, and like building on Bitcoin is always on chain, and maintain that like your keys are your keys, your data is your data. So like put your data on Bitcoin. Because that's like, it's going to be stored forever. Like, if you want your pictures of your families, just go and inscribe your pictures. Go check your Bitcoin wallets if you have rare sats, because you probably do. If you're a Bitcoin OG, you might have some rare satoshis that could be valuable, multiple Bitcoins. So like, generational wealth is ordinals, guys.
Yeah. And to Carlos's point, I met a guy at East Denver, and he was an old school Bitcoin guy, and we're talking ordinals, right? And that's exactly what he said. He goes, man, I got into Bitcoin back in like 2007, 2008, and for him it was life changing. And he goes, it's generational. That's what it was for him with Bitcoin. He goes, with ordinals, and again, take it as you will. He's a Bitcoin maxi, he's drinking the Kool-Aid, but he's like, ordinals is life changing, and it will be generational.
Thank you so much, all three. I learned a lot new things about ordinals and runes. I'll put a bumper sticker on my Lambo.
Thanks, Frank. You're the best.